still in the Grand Canyon, you can check out the Hopi Salt Trail that'll take you right to an aqua blue oasis. And then east of
Today I'll be reacting to Top 10 USA road trips to do in 2024. This should be a fascinating one. But before I go into that, let me ask you for one thing. If you can leave a like, thank you so much, my friend. This is the best way to show support. If you can subscribe, well, in that case, yeah, forget about it. You make my day. Have that in consideration. Now, link for the original video in my description. You probably are aware. I love this type of videos. Road trips in America. Sign me up. Let's play it. Oh boy.
What's going on, everyone? I hope you all had some amazing holidays and a happy new year to come. Today we're going to be exploring some of the best travel and outdoor destinations in the United States. Bree and I have been road tripping the country for the last 8 years and have explored endlessly. There's so many corners and stretches of our country to explore that it can be overwhelming when you're trying to plan a trip to see everything. So we're going to break down the best week-long road trips to do to explore specific areas and regions, but hit that subscribe button below.
This is looking great already.
This is my top 10 USA road trips to do in 2024.
Okay, my friends, the other day I forgot to tell you guys something that is really important. Yeah, I love America.
First up is Utah's Mighty Five. This is probably one of the most famous road trips that
Utah? I also love Utah.
there is. This road trip will take you across southern Utah's vast desert landscapes and showcase all 5 national parks that are in this state. The Mighty Five parks consist of Arches, Canyonlands, Capitol Reef, Bryce Canyon, and Zion. This is one of my favorite road trips on this list, and there's also a handful of state parks and hidden gems scattered between these parks, making this road trip the perfect thing to do if you're planning a 7 to 10 day road trip because there's so many additional stops that you can do. I have an extremely detailed video on this exact road trip that I will link for you to check out, but in here I'll give you some of my favorite hikes and destinations amongst these parks. You'll have to see Delicate Arch and Double Arch and Arches, Mesa Arch and Island in the Sky and Canyonlands, Hickman Bridge, Navajo Knobs, and Temple of the Sun and Moon and Capitol Reef, all of the overlooks along Bryce Canyon Scenic Drive, and of course the Narrows and Angel's Landing in Zion. Next up is Northern Arizona.
Oh, chill. Oh, okay, that was a lot, my friend. Utah. Okay, it's looking tremendous. I may even check the other video to be honest. Northern Arizona. Okay, Arizona I know is where the Grand Canyon is. Okay, but let's see it.
Arizona, a region quite close to the Mighty Five. Northern Arizona is stunning. There's so many beautiful destinations here that include roadside stops, short hikes, backpacking trips, and so on. Some of the locations are scattered out, but if you're looking for a town to get a hotel in for a base camp, Page is your spot. Page is situated along Lake Powell. Some of its famous locations include Antelope Canyon and Horseshoe Bend, but while you're here, you should also check out the New Wave, Toadstool Hoodoos, and Lee's Ferry. In Southwest...
Oh my god, okay, there's so many things, it's great. Okay, sorry. This is a bit overwhelming for me, my friends, I have to be honest. The Grand Canyon is probably the most special place, not the most... That I don't know for sure, but is for sure one of the most beautiful places in America for me. And I think it's just looking. You guys tell me in the comments all the time that, André, you cannot even realize how impactful it is when you see it for the first time. But even looking on videos, my friends, this looks so incredible. It's stunning.
From Page is the Grand Canyon, the most famous canyon in the world, and if you're looking for a challenging hike that's lesser known just outside of the park but still in the Grand Canyon, you can check out the Hopi Salt Trail that'll take you right to an aqua blue oasis. And then east of Canyon, you can check out the Hopi Salt Trail that'll take you right to an aqua blue oasis. And then
no chance that's real. My friends, is that real? Wait, that water was... No. That water was too blue, sorry.
Out the Hopi Salt Trail that'll take you right to an aqua blue oasis.
Oh, okay, no. What? Yeah. Yeah, my friends, America is ugly. It's really ugly. I mean...
And then east of Page, you're going to find Monument Valley along the border of Utah, Arizona. And at the end of the movie Forrest Gump, there's a very famous location filmed here at Monument Valley. And we're going to continue south.
I remember is when he actually stops running or he starts running. That I'm not sure. But actually, I love Forest Gump. My friend, let me ask you for one more thing. I know I do 1 million pauses. I'm aware of that. But I love to react actually to road trips, national parks type of videos. If you also have fun watching this with me, again, means the world if you can leave a like, a comment, but at least a like. It's just ding, a click, and that's it. If you can subscribe, like I say at the beginning, forget about it. You make my day. Let's continue.
South and head to Sedona as another hub for the rest of the locations on this list. There's plenty to do and see in Sedona. I have a top 10 from here and page, but my favorites for Sedona include Devil's Bridge and Birthing Cave. You can also hang out for the day at Slide Rock State Park just outside of town, and then my last 3 northern Arizona destinations that I'm going to include on this trip are Watson Lake, a great place for camping and climbing around on rocks, Bob Bear Trail, which is a hike that'll take you to an aqua blue swimming hole, and then Petrified Forest National Park. And before we jump into number 3, I want to make a quick note about this video. Everyone who watches this will plan a trip differently. They'll fly in and out of different airports or live near one of these where they'll start a road trip from their house. Because of this, I'm not going to necessarily note the road trips in any specific order of locations. Rather, I want to focus on all of the locations per road trip instead of the order you should visit them in, solely because the order you may visit these places will change from person to person. Anyways, for number 3, we're road
I start my road trip in Portugal, so it's quite different.
Tripping through New England for some of the most beautiful fall foliage in the world. New England turns into a rainbow of colors during the months of September to November, depending on the year and conditions, but it is surreal. It's almost like you're inside a bowl of fruity pebbles. One of my favorite destinations here is Acadia National Park, where you can be the first person in the country to see the sunrise from the top of Cadillac Mountain. The coastline and scenic drive is also stunning, and if you're looking for adventure, you can hike the Precipice or Beehive Trail along the cliff sides. A few other locations I love in New England for fall colors road tripping include Lake Winnipesaukee, Bar Harbor, Stowe, Smuggler's Notch, and in New Hampshire, you can't go wrong with any of the 4,000-foot White Mountains. Next up, we're road tripping Colorado, a big statewide loop starting in Denver, going through the San Juan Mountains and back to Denver. There is so much to do in Colorado, so I'll just be scratching the surface. I have dozens of Colorado-specific travel guides on the channel, but we're going to start heading south from Denver, and in Colorado Springs, we're going to check out Garden of the Gods and Pikes Peak, and then we're going to continue south, and once we pass Pueblo, we'll detour west to Canyon City to take the Royal Gorge train, and then drive on southwest to the Sand Dunes, and then to Pagosa Springs. Pagosa Springs is home to the world's deepest hot springs, and home to some of my favorite geothermal hot.
Okay. One thing I'm realizing watching this video, I'm going to watch this video probably 2 or 3 more times. Yeah, I mean, this is overwhelming. Again, maybe not for you, but for me, this is overwhelming. Colorado at one point I really thought was the most beautiful state in America. I still think it is still in the contention to be, but now that I know America a bit more, I think there is other places that also compete with Colorado. But my first instinct when I started reacting was, Colorado is the most beautiful state. And to be fair, it could still be. Anyone watching from Colorado, if so, leave me a comment.
Hot springs in the world. You'll have to make time to soak at the Springs Resort. From here, you'll drive west past Chimney Rock and through Durango to drive through the famous $1 Million Highway, passing Cascade Creek Falls, Colorado's Rainbow Mountain, Mount Sneffels, Fort Tiener, and Ouray, which is dubbed the Switzerland of America, just to name a few places along the highway. After this, you can continue on to Aspen or Crested Butte, and a scenic drive I'd recommend in this area would be Kebler Pass, which has beautiful fall foliage. It's a dirt road, but any car can drive it. And then as we make our way back to Denver, our last stops are going to be in Glenwood Springs and Breckenridge, and then we'll end up back in Denver. For our next road trip, we're starting in Jackson Hole, Wyoming, home to Grand Teton National Park, some of the most beautiful jagged peaks in the country. My favorite hikes here are Delta Lake and Lake of the Crag.
See, that's why I struggle to put Colorado number 1, because I also take a look at Wyoming and Montana, and things get really competitive all the time. But André, you should not compete. I know. I do it for fun. I like all of them.
But there's plenty of roadside viewpoints if you're not wanting to hike, and this includes Taggart Lake, Jenny Lake, Schwabacher Landing, just to name a few. And then we'll take the scenic drive past Jackson Lake into Yellowstone National Park, home to the constantly erupting Old Faithful Geyser and Grand Prismatic.
I'm not going to even talk about this because I have a bunch of videos on Yellowstone, so take a look on my channel.
the most colorful and beautiful
Incredible.
geothermal feature I've ever seen. Yellowstone is one of the most crowded parks in the country, but honestly it's one of my favorites. It's just so unique, and because the park is so big, there's plenty to explore and a handful of places to get away from some of the crowds, like Norris Geyser Basin and Grand Canyon of the Yellowstone during sunrise. From here, we'll drive west towards Idaho over Teton Pass, and then we'll see Craters of the Moon, which is a vast landscape of volcanic rock. This is a very cool place, and it's an easy half-day stop before we continue on to Idaho's Sawtooth Mountains outside of the town of Stanley. The best hikes here are Goat Lake and Sawtooth Lake, and if you're looking to just chill out for a day without any hiking, Redfish Lake is a great place for a day on the water to paddleboard and just hang out. Our last destination for this road trip is Glacier National Park in northern Montana, another one of my favorite parks. This park has some beautiful overlooks, but to see the best that Glacier has to offer, you're going to have to be ready to hike. My favorite trails here are Grinnell Glacier, the Highline Trail, and Iceberg Lake, but if you're just looking for a beautiful roadside stop, you can never go wrong with Lake McDonald. Next up, we're cruising through Cali.
Okay, let me say one thing. I feel like I'm repeating myself all the time, but the thing is, the North of America is insane. It's so beautiful. But the South of America is also beautiful. It's crazy. And they are very different. André, what about Midwest? I love it, apart from the tornadoes. But it's also beautiful.
And we will be road tripping the best places in Southern California. The entire state is incredible, but for this, we're going to be mostly focusing on locations between Las Vegas and Los Angeles. If you're starting in Vegas, you'll head west to see Death Valley, which is home to the lowest point in all of North America at 282 feet below sea level at Badwater Basin. My favorite spots in the park are the sand dunes and Zabriskie Point. From here, you can head north or southwest. If you head north, you're going to head to Lone Pine, which is the town east of Mount Whitney, which is the tallest mountain in the lower 48 states. You can climb this peak from here, or if you go to the same Whitney Portal trailhead, you can hike Lone Pine Lake, which I really enjoyed, and below the mountains is an area called Alabama Hills, and this is a landscape filled with massive boulders, rock arches, and pristine rock climbing backed by Mount Whitney and the rest of the Sierra Nevada mountains. It's a great place for photography. Mount Whitney is in Sequoia National Park, but if you want to see the majority of this park, you're going to have to drive south all the way around the mountain range. And if you want one more great hike somewhat near Lone Pine, you can drive north to Bishop and hike Big Pine Lakes, a series.
I'm not joking when I say this. I'm 100% end up using some of this image on my computer back in the day as wallpaper. Yeah, and I was not even aware I was using image of America. Actually, I remember having the Grand Canyon as my, wallpaper on my desktop. So yeah, I guess that's the best. So if that tells you something about me, is that I always thought this was beautiful.
Of pristine alpine lakes. But stepping back, if we go south from Death Valley, we'll be going straight towards the Mojave Desert and Joshua Tree National Park. My favorite place in Joshua Tree is Arch Rock at White Tanks Campground. And then after all of these epic desert and mountain locations, you can head to the coast to enjoy the Pacific Ocean. I personally prefer San Diego over Los Angeles, but both have beautiful coastlines like Malibu and Cabrillo National Monument. At number 7, we're going to be road tripping Southeast Nevada, which in my opinion is extremely underrated. Some of the locations on this...
Ooh, I also have a feeling that Nevada as a state is underrated when it comes to natural beauty. Would you guys agree with that?
This road trip will be busy due to day tours from Las Vegas. However, some of these places are definitely more off the radar, so you might be able to escape some of the crowds. So just outside of Vegas, to the west, is Red Rock Canyon, a scenic 13-mile drive through beautiful desert landscapes and towering rock walls. You can visit this area as a scenic drive, a long bike ride, there's plenty of hiking trails, and it's home to some of the most classic rock climbing in the country. There's very long 1,000 to 2,000 foot walls with relatively easy grade multi-pitch climbs, so it's a great place if you're looking to get into big wall climbing but staying at easier grades. Then east of Vegas, we can visit Valley of Fire, which has an iconic photograph of the road that goes through the valley, which you've most likely seen on Instagram, but my favorite place here is the Fire Wave. 1 hour southwest of Vegas, we can head to Willow Beach, which is on the border of Arizona and Nevada, and here we're going to rent kayaks and head to Emerald Cove, a beautiful cave that's along the water with extremely rich green color. You can take a tour or you can just rent kayaks and head out there. We just rented them and self-guided ourselves out there because most of the tours look pretty expensive and you're also with like 40 other people, so in my opinion that just takes away from the experience. Then we're going to head north of Vegas and go to one of my favorite state parks in the country, Cathedral Gorge. It was an absolute ghost town when we visited and we had the entire place to ourselves. It was so much fun exploring the slot canyons here.
Oh, that I don't like. That I get some type of fear of that, thing. No. But it looks nice, but no.
Lastly, we'll continue north to end this road trip at Great Basin National Park. For our 8th
And I'm a bit too fat. No chance I can do that.
road trip on the list, we're heading to South Dakota's Black Hills, another extremely underrated destination and one that exceeded all of my expectations. A few years ago, Bree and I took her parents up there and I assumed, oh, Mount Rushmore, this is going to be crazy commercial and touristy, but it was actually so cool, and learning how they built it was awesome, and the same goes to the nearby Crazy Horse Memorial. We stayed in Hill City, but another town you can stay in here is Keystone. Regardless, you're going to visit both if you book the 1880 train excursion, which I highly recommend, and in the Black Hills, you're also going to visit Wind Cave and Jewel Cave, which are the 5th and 7th longest cave systems in the world. Exploring these are a lot of fun, and the tours are perfect for a family-friendly afternoon activity. When we went, we needed to book our tour ahead of time, which I planned for because we did see a few people get turned around at the ticket office because the tours were sold out. As for my absolute favorite place in the Black Hills, that's going to be Custer State Park, which could honestly be a national park if the park system wanted it to be. In the south end of the park, there's endless wildlife, making for an incredible scenic drive.
Wait, that's not a national park?
And then as you continue this drive, you'll get to the Needles Highway, which boasts some of the most unique rock formations I've seen in this country. There's plenty of rock climbing and hiking here, but just driving through and getting out at roadside stops makes for a great outing. While this trip is smaller in miles and distance compared to some of the other ones on this list, it is still a road trip you should add to your list. And if you do want some additional miles and one last location to visit, you can check out Devil's Tower in Wyoming, just west of the Black Hills. We didn't make it here, but it looks awesome. Next, we're going to be road tripping through West Texas.
Oh, Texas. I love Texas. Okay.
Bree and I have had the pleasure to work with the Texas Tourism Board on 2 different campaigns, and we were blown away by some of the locations we visited and the hidden gems here. Not to mention that the crowds are much less than the other places on this list because Texas is so big, and not that it's remote, but it's just so far south and out there that it's more of a remote and isolated road trip. You'll still have some crowds, but I'm just saying this relative to this list. We'll start this one off in Amarillo, home to the 72-ounce Big Texan Steak Challenge, Cadillac Ranch, and some of the historic Route 66. South of here, we'll head to Palo Duro Canyon State Park to explore a few caves and then hike the iconic Lighthouse Trail, a 5.8-mile round-trip hike with 500 feet of elevation gain. And then we're going to continue south to Monaghan Sandhills State Park, a very, very fun area of sand dunes. We rented sleds and just had an amazing afternoon here going up and down the dunes. West of here, we'll visit Balmorhea State Park for some water fun. My favorite thing here was their big diving board. And then heading northwest from here is Guadalupe Mountains National Park. And if you're visiting here, the one hike you don't want to miss is Guadalupe Peak, which is an 8-mile round trip hike with 3,000 feet of elevation gain that takes you to the highest point in the state. North of here is Carlsbad Caverns over the border in New Mexico. However, we didn't have enough time to visit on this trip down here. Anyways, our last destination on this road trip is Big Bend National Park, which is extremely remote, but a beautiful park on the border of Texas and Mexico. The best place to visit here is Santa Elena Canyon, and then you can drive the entire scenic drive through the park, visiting its various roadside stops. Last but not least is a Pacific Northwest road trip through Washington.
Oh my God, Washington and Oregon. I know those 2 states are crazy beautiful.
And Oregon. I've explored these states multiple times, but I've also had a handful of trips here get canceled due to wildfires, so it's actually been many.
So actually, let me say one thing. I had a trucker driver that sent me a message saying that he basically ended up driving in all states in his career, in his life, and he said that Oregon is the one that he feels is the most beautiful to drive. They have the best landscapes.
Any years since I've been.
Can I confirm that for you? No, but I know Oregon is beautiful.
So my archives of footage are slightly more limited. However, this is another road trip you don't want to miss. And since there's so many international airports in the area, including Seattle, Oregon, Vancouver, and San Francisco, I'm not going to go in any specific order, just going to list off some of my favorites. In Oregon, my favorite coastal destinations are Samuel Boardman Scenic Corridor, including the Natural Bridges Stop, Thor's Well, and Cannon Beach. My favorite waterfall hike is Tokyo.
Oh no, stop it. At this point, you guys are just flexing on me. Every state looks amazing. What? Oh my, okay. Tremendous.
Falls amongst the state's countless waterfalls. Mount Hood is also awesome, and while I haven't been to Bend, Oregon or Crater Lake National Park, these both look amazing and are on my list. In Washington, you have a little bit of everything. From Seattle, as far as tours go, you should take a scenic helicopter flight around the city, and you need to take a tour to Puget Sound and Orcas Island to see the orcas in the wild. Along the coast, Ruby Beach and Rialto Beach are both fun destinations for a sunset picnic. While you're here, you can go inland and check out Olympic National Park and the famous Huh Rainforest. When heading to the Cascades, an easy roadside stop is Diablo Lake, but if you want an epic hike, you can go up to Cascade Pass and the Sahale Arm above.
I'm gonna drink a bit of water. I guess you guys can wait, right? I'm sorry. Yeah, no, this is going too far. Like I said, at this point, you guys are flexing on me, and no. Nah. I'm looking at some type of AI generational videos or something, and this is not now.
Doubtful Lake. But if you're looking for some European vibes, you can visit the town of Leavenworth, which is also the hub for the Enchantments, which is probably the most beautiful point-to-point hike I've ever done. And it wouldn't be a trip to the Pacific Northwest without visiting Mount Rainier, where you can hike Mystic Falls, Mount Fremont Fire Lookout, or climb Rainier itself. Washington is also filled with an abundant number of waterfalls. Some of my favorites include Panther Creek Falls and Palouse Falls, and then similar to Rainier, it wouldn't be...
My friends, can we agree that, God was very kind with America in terms of natural beauty? Because, a
Pacific Northwest road trip without driving through the Columbia River Gorge and exploring all of its various waterfalls, especially its most famous one,
You guys have waterfalls everywhere?
Multnomah Falls. Before we sign off on this video, I want to include one last bonus road trip to the video, and that's going to be an Appalachian Mountains road trip with a focus on Virginia, West Virginia, and Tennessee. On the border
Actually, I have a video on the Appalachian Mountains, by the way.
Maryland, Virginia, and West Virginia is Harper's Ferry. I grew up in Maryland, so this place has always been special to me. Then in Virginia, you'll have to check out Shenandoah National Park, with my favorite hikes being Old Rag Mountain and Mount Marshall. Then all the way across the state in the western tip is the Devil's Bathtub, one of my favorite hikes on the eastern half of the country. And then in West Virginia, my favorite places are Seneca Rocks, Nelson Rocks via Ferrata, and New River Gorge. As for Tennessee, we're now in the heart of the Smoky Mountains, which you can visit the national park, the fun and vibrant town of Gatlinburg, an underground cave called the Lost Sea Adventure, and then my favorite waterfall in Tennessee is Cummins Falls and Ozone Falls. And you might as well finish this trip off in Nashville for some relaxing fun. Anyways, that's going to wrap up this video. This is one of the more ambitious and destination-packed videos I've ever made, so I really hope you liked it and found some fun ideas for your next road trip. If you haven't already, it would mean the world to me if you could give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. I have dozens of travel guides and top 10s on the channel, so I hope you stick around. I'll see you later. Thanks again for watching.
Okay, my friends, this video is looking really tempting. Top 10 national parks in the USA. Should I watch this one? Leave me the number 10 if I should watch this. And that will also mean that you guys are watching until the end. Man, I'm curious to see, because I know there is so many national parks that and this guy seems really well informed when it comes to, to road trips, visiting nature in America. So this top 10 could be really interesting. You know what I mean? But yeah, thank you so much for watching. See you guys in the next one. Bye, my friends.